Hello, everyone. This is Cindy at I Am the Open Door. According to my computer, it is 10 a.m. or 10:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on February 28th, 2025. This is the hour we have entitled Reality Check, where those of us who are in the room are coming with the intention for a direct experience. And we're using the teachings that are coming through Helen Hamilton and specifically um, the words in the book Reality Check to help us do that. Last week, we finished the book, and the decision at that point was to go back at the beginning. And if we get that far in this book, she suggests that you read this book multiple times. So um, we're going to do that. Pat has agreed to be our reader, but again, before, as is our habit, some habits are good, right? I have a 10-minute Helen Hamilton clip that was just released 4 days ago, I think. It's beautiful that she has a staff of volunteers that release these short clips on a regular basis. I don't even have to look for them anymore. But we'll spend about 10 minutes with Helen. Then um, whatever is on anyone's heart to share will be shared. And then Pat will be our reader. And again, as is what we do here at any given time, anyone who is here may interrupt the reading and sink into what is being experienced. It's good to have us all here. Very grateful for everyone. And let's hang with Helen as I find it. She is set up. There she is. Can there be loneliness for the self is the title.
Helena?
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
I just want to apologize first because I haven't really, I'm not really sure what the question is. I'm just wanting to clarify something I'm struggling with when you talk about the fear or the thing it is that you're struggling with. The thing I struggle with, I think, is in acknowledging that we're all one, that there's no separate self and that we're all one. What I find hard about that wait.
Take your time, it's okay.
Because my husband died, I find it hard to does that mean he didn't exist? You know, if we're all just one. Because, you know, part of the reason that we want to live is to connect with other people. And we like their difference to us, you know, the fact that they're them.
Yeah.
And the idea that this is all imaginary and that we're all just one just makes me feel lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up sort of fighting with that idea, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I remember that being there myself. And it really comes from or my own journey with this loneliness was just constantly present, pretty much as long as I could remember, the sense of feeling very lonely.
Mm.
And it terrified me, actually, this idea that there was no separate self. You know, there was that I had been making up my whole life. Everything I ever thought had happened to me was a story. this separate being was a story that was so embroidered and embellished and taken on a life of its own. And when I began to realize that it really wasn't true, there was a recognition I was going to have to sort of fully accept that at some point, but I didn't want to, because the sense of loneliness came up. And as you said, there's no separate being then. Who am I going to connect with? Who am I going to, the richness of life is our human relationships, right? Without those, all of this awakening is about our relationships. So being able to be with what is, and, if that's another human being or whatever experience. So, but I finally came to the understanding that it's actually only if I'm feeling lonely, it's only a halfway realization. It needs to go a little deeper into what it means to be alone. Right, you with me so far, yeah?
Sort of.
Let me carry on and see if it doesn't, if you get lost, just stop me. And if I, if there is only me everywhere, if there's only one being, if I'm talking to myself right now, or you're talking to yourself right now, can you feel lonely from there? What's the mine says, well, of course, yeah, it's going to be, my mind went from everything from it's going to be utterly boring, it's just you, utterly dull, or terrifyingly lonely. And it also didn't like the idea that there'd be no special relationships, no romantic relationship that'd be special, no special relationship with my children, and, all of that. But it's actually very different when actually experienced. It means that you have, let's say, the best, you don't need to tell us what that is, but the best relationship you've ever had in your entire life, the closest, the most fruitful, the way you grew the most with that person. What if you had that feeling, that same feeling with everybody, every human body? And also every animal, insect, and seemingly insentient object. What if that's the only way you could feel all the time? Could you feel lonely then? What if every person that you walk past, you knew on some very rich and deep level? You didn't know so much whether they like tea or coffee, or what type of food they like, or what type of music. But you absolutely knew them. You knew them so deeply, and you felt like you'd been best friends forever. It's very different to what mine says, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, most of those best friends are not ready to hear that you're going to be best friends because they're busy protecting their sense of separateness. But to just walk through your life without any sense of any strangers anywhere, it's very different to what a mind imagines it to be. You'll even find yourself falling in love with inanimate objects. You probably know the tea bag story, but I'll tell it anyway. One day I was in the kitchen here and just took the tea bag out of my cup after I'd finished with it, and I was just standing there staring at it, just crying and crying. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, a used tea bag. I was utterly in love with it. And I thought I'd gone insane at that point, but if you had the capacity to feel like that about anything and everything, there's no loneliness possible there. It's the only place where loneliness is not possible.
Maybe it's the use of the word self, which sounds lonely to me, and maybe that's just it's just a word.
Yeah, let's call it love. Let's call it divinity. Let's call it consciousness. Let's call it anything, right? Let's call it what is.
Yeah.
And a really cool thing is from there, the whole world wants to play with you, right? People who would just normally, you'd walk past each other on the street, not even meet each other's eyes out of fear or whatever. The whole world just wants to play with you then. There's always someone ready to have a laugh and a play with you wherever you go. Currently, it's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a recognition that maybe the word self has some vibration around it, right? That is mind is in resistance to that idea of what it thinks self is.
Yeah.
But here's the quick way out of all of this is to realize you're only seeing what's always been true. It's only always been you everywhere you look and everything you experience. Nothing's going to change in that, except you'll lose the capacity to feel lonely ever again. You'll feel at home wherever your body is and amongst friends wherever you are.
Yeah.
Mind imagines this changeover that's going to happen, and it's the biggest story of all. You just come to see, oh, yeah, all this is me, actually. If you are the universe, can you be lonely then? So just pick a different word maybe, and the great thing about words is there's lots of them. You could just choose one that feels good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Rana.
That was so great. Like I listened to it when it first came out, but I did not take it in the way it was just then. So I'm super grateful for that. There were a couple things that really hit me. Like the mind will be mad that there will be no special relationships. And that hits it for me, right? When I hear there's only you. And then the question comes, what about, just like she said, and the mind is just so mad that I can't have a special relationship. But then she just gives that answer. What if I had that relationship with everybody, insect and tree? And it's just so beautiful the way she describes her experience. And I know it's possible for that experience to be had here too. And I've had glimpses of it. Like I'm not kidding myself, I remember looking at a moth one day in here and just, it was, there's no words, right? But looking at it from there, loneliness is just an idea. It's just a thought. And it's really not possible if I'm looking at it from this place that she's pointing to. So it was terrific. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
needed that.
Yeah, I did too.
Me too.
Anybody else want to share anything before we begin reading? Please, Izzy. You'll have to unmute though, so we can hear you.
Yeah, that was wow. I love that. I've had a kind of a pileup of stressors in my life lately. I've been dealing with some chronic pain, and I've never had to deal with that before. And then when you get fearful that that's going to go on forever, then it seems like fears just have a way of snowballing. and I just haven't been able to pull myself out of it. But probably the biggest one is, somebody has had an offer to buy my house. And, that would be a huge, huge weight off me. But I love my house as well. I love where I live. And so anyway, I decided to take myself down to the ocean to a restaurant down there, and I had a glass of wine. And about halfway through that glass of wine, I just fell in love with everything and everybody. It was just so magnificent. One of the most lovely experiences I've ever had. And I've always said, I wish I could live my life the way I live when I have a half a glass of wine. It just makes everything so different. Anyway, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share. I fell in love yesterday, that with a little help from the wine.
If God simply is everything, then God was that half a glass of wine too, right?
Exactly.
Please, Amy.
I I get the half a glass of wine thing, Izzy. I'm with you on that. Um, I think that was a really good video because it does point sometimes to the intellectualism of the non-dual teachings that can leave one feeling a little cold and thin, a little brittle. It's just so intellectual. I thought she might say that that her husband's actually closer to her now than she was perhaps when he was in physical form, because now the physical form isn't separating him from her, and that he actually is probably, if she would could develop a relationship with him without his being in form, she might be able to hear him more directly. I thought she might say that. Anyway, thank you for that. I love Helen
Thank you.
Hamilton.
And I don't know if everybody's noticed yet, but she is our podcast for next week. That's with Helen Hamilton. Hey, William.
Wow. I I've always talked about the simple things, whether it's eating a bowl of cereal at night all by myself, or whether it's whatever it might be. But just that moment, it's like the universe, the world gets swallowed into just the moment. And what I got from her lately, I've been just being so silent with myself. And there've been several people who said, okay, I'd really like not to keep our conversations because I want to go into my silence. Wow. Instead of taking it as rejection, I'm saying, oh, wow. Yes, yes, yes. You're freeing me from all the chatter that you're doing. And you're saying you don't need it from me either. That's exactly where I want to be. And then I had a realization this morning, you know, I'm still pretending I'm Santa. I love playing Christmas or whatever the story I'm playing, whether it's teacher, father, whatever. I'm still playing that role. And somebody else will say, I don't want to play Christmas with you. It's not real. And I'm saying, you're right. And am I willing to give up this role that I've been playing all my life that I get so comfortable in? And her whole thing about loneliness, wow, to that. And when I hear certain people describe that moment of isness and how delicious it is, I know that now too. And Oh, I just love what she said. I just love it. And boy, that's what I get to feel here. At times, I don't have anything to say, but I'm absorbing. And it's like we all are best friends without even having to say yay or nay. And we can say yay or nay either way.
Thank you, William. Alka, did you want to say that out loud or?
I was just saying, I'm feeling so connected to all of you, and whatever Helen was getting from the tea bag, I'm getting here from being with you, all of you. Really
So
feel very connected.
since you are not in the United States, I've got to remember, I'm going to say this a lot over the next week. Time change in the US is happening on March 9th. In Europe, it's not happening until March 30th, which means that for about 3 weeks, these meetings for those who are not in a time change scenario will be an hour earlier than they were. Just putting
I
it,
shall try and remember that.
I'll say it more than once. It's a bigger deal in the global diet community than it is here, but is there more, or shall we start to read? What do you think, Pat? I'm gonna call this up.
Okay.
And remember, anyone can interrupt at any time. Just unmute.
Okay, it's not here on this screen, but I'm just going to read this very short dedication at the front of the book. Dedication. This book is dedicated to making the first and last duality easy to transcend. It is not hard, and neither should it take a long time to realize the truth. May you find the peace that you are looking for in the true understanding and direct experience of reality. Chapter 1, Introduction. You are the formless reality in which the universe is simply an appearance and not an actual thing. There are no actual things. Everything that appears to be tangible and solid is really only so because we are perceiving it through our human senses. What is real is the formless, intangible self that is everywhere at all times. You are not a human being, and you are not the formless cause of all the forms. There is no manifestation of this world, things, objects, and people. It is all the one self. And she said in her video, let's call it love. Many spiritual students struggle with trying to understand how the manifest and unmanifest can really be the same thing, and spend a lot of wasted energy trying to resolve this. This book will help you to come to understand reality as it really is. Some of the ideas in this book will seem impossible to understand at first, but with repetition, they will begin to make sense. To perceive reality directly is to understand what you really are and what everything is. Once you really understand what you are, then nothing will be confusing anymore, and you will be able to read the statements above and they will seem obvious. You will wonder how you ever thought that you were a separate and limited human being, destined to be born, to live, and to die.
Pat, can we just hold off for a second? I'm curious if anybody's noticing an inner response to these words. If the words are just hanging in the intellect, or if they are sinking into your experience. And if they're sinking into your experience, are you finding any sense of contraction or resistance or yeah buts to them? See, Sissy.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both for me, but there's one sentence that is confusing. The end of the first paragraph, you are not a human being and you are not the formless cause of all forms. I I thought that it's our mind. Is it the one mind that is causing form? I just, if somebody could explain that sentence to me, I'd appreciate it.
There's a there's a pointing that I've heard a lot from Joel Goldsmith, and I'm also now hearing it from the guides, and I'm watching how often I tend to forget it. And I think the way Joel Goldsmith states it, he says, "You're not a being or a person having the experience of Christ or God. What you are is God experiencing Cindy or Izzy." Um, and the guides say something very similar. They keep saying, um, you're not learning how to connect and use God. You're coming to the recognition and the understanding that God is all there is, and God is moving through an experience, through this experience. And so when you ask that question and how I sit with this, I'm recognizing that all form that's temporary isn't solid, it's an experience. And so there's no form that's being created from anything. Anything that we would call form we is an object, right? And the objective universe is by definition temporary. Therefore, it's more like the wave in consciousness. Is that
Yeah, that's what I was fuzzily getting. You know, it's just a matter of making that real inside. Yeah, thank you.
hey William?
Well, what I get is that the emphasis on the word you. There's no you. There's no me. So that's, and I will maybe sometimes use presence, but there's no you. There's no me. And that's what I keep forgetting.
Richard.
Morning, everyone. What has helped me with this idea of not being real is my own dreams. When I dream at night, when I wake up, the dream seems real, but there's another part of my mind that knows I can't reach out and touch any of the characters in the dream. In other words, they don't have form. They're part of my thinking or my imagination or whatever a dream is. And if we apply the same idea to our experience as a dream figure, if we see ourselves as a dream figure, then it's more comfortable when we say, when in reality, we're all as one, Richard doesn't exist. He's not a body. He's not a separate self. He's just a character in a dream, like all the characters in my dreams. And that helps me to wrap my mind around, my finite mind around the whole idea of separation. Love you all. Glad to be here.
I was inspired to slow it down because there's a whole bunch of things going on in this experience. There is an awareness of something that's just still and open, right? From which all these words are coming from. There is an awareness of how the mind is taking it in what is being said and agreeing with it. And there's a sense of separation in that agreement. I'm hearing the words that were written by a Helen and spoken by a Pat and being received in an experience with 13 beings, including myself. And I'm also very aware of a energetic vibratory experience of this form. And I'm aware in the moment of how these teachings and these pointings are affecting the feeling of being a form. And some of it is really uncomfortable. And so it's useful to say that out loud, that all of these direct experiences are happening here right now, as I sit with the pointing that nothing is quite what it seems to be. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Cindy. Good morning, everybody. So I've been watching some near-death experiences that folks have, and everybody is talking about understanding once they leave the physical body that everything is one, and that it's so difficult in form to really hold that realization for most of us. And they talk about one guy talked about meeting the Christ consciousness and understanding that the Christ consciousness knew where every grain of sand was on every beach, on every planet, in every universe, and that he couldn't express that when he came back into form, and that coming back into form is like, putting on this this bodysuit that is bigger than the Empire State Building. It's so heavy and so constricted. And so I think we have to be patient with ourselves when we don't, when we read this kind of thing and we don't quite get it. It takes a while for this to sort of sink in, and we have to practice with it in our minds. We have to practice letting it rest in our awareness, and we have to practice being the one that is actually connected to everything. So I watch these people, and they're so sincere, and they bring with them when they come back this knowing, but they're also very clear that it's almost impossible to maintain it 100% all the time, because you get back into perceiving with the body and the five senses and everything else. So I just be patient, let's be patient with each other, right? And with yourself, and also really enjoy the color, enjoy being in the body. It's like, have fun with that. It's a really unique and amazing experience. And we have to kind of keep our foot in both camps at the same time, right? What a great learning this is, to be able to look at a tea bag and have it make you cry. Yeah. Thank you.
Shall we keep reading?
I would add to what Amy was saying there and about going back and forth. We were reading in the course meeting, a recent meeting, and the phrase came up, progress is intermittent.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, well, there's
Wow.
praise right there." And then I just had this flash because I guess you'd call it meditating, but all of a sudden I realized progress is, it sounds like, I'm here and I want to get there. And I may take a step forward, a step back, and this, this progress is intermittent, but that's totally not it. What it is that we are there. The progress is the acceptance of that. The acceptance of where we really are comes and goes.
Thank you. Rana,
That was beautiful, Pat. Thank you. I just wanted to go back to the sentence for a moment. I had a couple of notes from our last go through, and this really helped me a lot. Kind of flushing out the sentence a little bit, I'm reminded that I have to consider which you is being spoken to, and here I believe that the you being pointed to is the one that thinks it's separate. And so if I look at that sentence, you are not a human being in truth, and you, the apparent human, are not the formless cause of all forms. And it's kind of just letting me know that, because forms are not real and I didn't cause them. and we also referred back to first cause, Big Bang, whatever you want to call it, shattering of the vessels, and I like what Amy said, or excuse me, I do like what Amy said. But what Pat reminded me of is it's not, everything in this world seems so linear, right? Here to here, we move here, and what I experienced as you were describing is, I'm not going from here to here. It's an expansion. It's a creation. It's a getting bigger, but not in the way big means. So thank you for this discussion.
thank you. Amy.
Just one thing, Rana reminded me of this. I have a very good friend who actually started me on a lot of the path that I find myself on now. And she used to say, something bad would happen, and she'd say, "Well, I caused this to happen. It must be good because I've caused this to happen." And I always balked at that. It's sort of the law of manifestation or the law of attraction. I've attracted this to myself. And I would try to understand, why did that not ring true for me? What was missing from that? And Helen kind of put it really nicely in a different way when she said it's a half truth. So I am not the cause. My personal self is not the cause of what happens to me. Right? There is no personal self. And so the law of attraction, in a way, encourages the thought that there is a personal self that's bringing this to me for my own benefit. And I think that is a straying from the path of truth. That's not seeing the full picture. And so when she says, whatever, Rana, you're not a human being and you are not the formless cause of all forms, that speaks to that misunderstanding, I think. So I just wanted to put that out there.
All right, so it's still here. So I'll just say what I'm learning from the guides, I'm saying that aloud, but it seems to correlate so much with what we're talking about. They've generally stated that when you say yes to this realignment to a higher frequency, I'll put it that way, what is required is that your history be reknown at that higher frequency. And since you've been in agreement to have this done, what will happen is circumstances will be presented to activate what's hidden within you so that you can agree to have it reknown. It's just a reknowing of oneself in truth. And I'm sitting with it. There's a lot of things going on. I'm experiencing a lot of opportunities to cling to this idea of guilt and shame and less than, and they're all attached to really old stories at the moment. And I'm able to taste it and let it come up and simply hold it and invite what's beyond the known, a higher vibration to, we could use the word invite the atonement or invite forgiveness, but in this particular structure, it's just allowing it to be reknown without the fear and to hold oneself responsible for what came into the past, but with a new level of being, and to hold oneself accountable, but without the fear and without the judgment. And all of that, just there's a sense here of allowing a greater sense of being in purpose and being in service with these teachings as these different things are coming up for me to look at in various ways. Yeah. And the world seems to be at the moment just being used to tap on the door of all of that. Hey, Richard.
What I seem to be experiencing is interesting enough. I went through a period where I realized that surrendering the separate self was very difficult, and for all of us, because we started out wanting to be happy, joyous, and free as a separate self. And so we start our journey spirituality, and we read and listen to others, and we take classes, and we go to seminars or retreats, and hoping that somehow we'll find out how to be happy, joyous, and free every moment of every day. And what we find out, or at least what I'm finding out, is I'm still going to be Richard. But I'm going to be happy, joyous, and free as Richard because I'm no longer listening to the ego that believes it's real. If I surrender my belief in that I'm real and to realize I'm everything, experiencing life in this limited world as infinite awareness, but using an avatar called Richard, Richard's life and the dream can be happy, joyous, and free. So it's not about puffing out of existence when you give up the separate self. It's about the transformation of the separate self into everything that is, manifesting everything that is through a limited being within a dream. So that's where I'm at right now. And I think I'm almost over all the fear of giving up the separate self, but I'm still a work in progress. Love you all.
Thank you. That last statement, it reminds me of something I heard Fran Hamilton say, which at the time really pissed me off. I got to be honest. She just, and I believe the way she put it or the way I heard it was, I'm at peace today, but I can't guarantee you how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And that really, really annoyed me at the time. I have a deeper understanding of it now, but at the time I was like, what do you mean? You wrote the book when fear falls away, and now you're telling me it's not a guarantee that it's going to be like that forever? And is it Fran? Maybe I got her last name wrong. Fran, whatever.
Jan Fraser.
Thank you, Fran. See, I said Fran Hamilton, and it's Jan Fraser. But thank you for knowing who I was talking about.
That's our friend Fran. You just attributed a huge book to our friend Fran. I'll let her know.
Thank you. We're all one, so it doesn't matter what I label anybody, right? I knew it was wrong. At some point, I was like, something's not right with this label, but someone will know who I'm talking about. Hey, William.
Well, what's coming to me this morning? The you, as I said before, the you, the me. What I'm seeing, how much I've sought, seeking for that other me that might be better than the current me. And so that seeking, okay, as I let go of that, and then it occurs that presently there's someone that really has a different notion of who I am. It feels I don't see myself that way, they see me that way. So what I'm seeing is it's like those, as Amy is saying, all the sands. I'm one little drop of sand in the whole picture. And sometimes I'm this other drop of sand, so I'm never sure which drop of sand, or the molecule of water, or am I the tree, or the weed. But what's really helping is that I like the images that I set up, my separate images that I've strived for. I don't like this separate image that somebody else sees me. It's almost making it easier for me to let go of either separate image. Theirs is a little easier to let go of course, but mine, and they're both, and I'm just seeing that. It's like, am I this grain of sand or am I that grain of sand? And all of a sudden, again, the feeling I get, listen to Helen. Wow, what relief just to be. And in that moment, I don't have to be that other image that somebody else has. Whew, wow. I don't have to be that image I've been saying because I had so much energy trying to protect and defend it and make it and improve it. I'm just beginning to, wow. And the letting go of the loneliness, I've felt that loneliness. And wow, not to even be lonely. And I thought what you're going to say, just that I'm that little sand, whether it's a tea bag or a grain of sand. And when I go silent, it's all one. And I just feel that. So that's what I'm getting this morning, off and on. Sometimes I'm a grain of sand, and sometimes I'm not even here.
Fabulous. Thank you. What do you think? Should we try to read a little bit more? Or is there more? All right. Interrupted anytime. Here we go, Pat.
All right. How can you come to know that you are present everywhere and at all times? How can you come to know beyond a doubt that you are infinite and unlimited? How can you shed the thoughts and assumptions that the mind uses to keep you feeling bound? We will take a journey of realizations, insights, and understandings in this book that can help you undo the assumptions that are stopping your eternal joy. With each chapter, we will undo more of the assumptions of the mind, and it will become clearer and clearer what you are. If you do not understand something written in the upcoming chapters, know that you have infinite help around you. Even if you are alone reading this and do not know of anyone else that is like you and interested in truth. Simply the wish to understand it must bring that understanding to you in time, and you can always reread each chapter until it makes sense. The truth of your being and the truth of what reality is are the same thing. You are reality. You are everywhere at all times. Time and space exist only as an idea inside you. It is time to break free from all limitations and to begin to live as your infinite self. Mind is hypnotic and alluring for a limited time only. The fact that you are reading this means it is losing its hold over you. There is a whole reality beyond the mind, and that is what you are. There will be times when you doubt if you can do this, whether you can understand this. But remember, you can always contact us to ask questions or get help. Contact details are in the back of the book. Now let's get started. Read this book in its entirety a few times. We learn by repetition, and we only accept that as true. We only accept that as true that seems obvious and familiar to us. It is up to you to read this and question what you read consistently enough to make it your own direct knowledge and experience. If there is any gap between what you have seen to be true and what you are living as, then there must be a belief in the way that needs to be removed. Simply to recognize, I don't understand what has been written, but I would like to know it beyond doubt, will bring that to you. Ask that question and go have a cup of tea and watch the understanding present itself to you in a tea bag. Always rely on your own experience of what is written here. Do not be content with my words. Become this book. Live as this book, and you will never know suffering again. Wow.
I'm in. Not sure Maeve is, but I am. What's it like to live as a book?
Well, one of the things I've heard Helen say, and you know, it's a comfort to know that it's true, that what she's saying here is simply because you want to understand it means you will. Simply that you ask the question, the answer will come. And it's not like me having to do this. It's the love, it's the infinite being, it's the oneself that is realizing itself. It's not a job I have to do. It's kind of happening because I want it to happen. And then there's this other thing I have right in front of me. I've written it down. She said, you can't get to beingness by becoming. There isn't any journey that will take us to where we are. So I feel very like I don't feel like I have to do anything. It's just all happening, and I'm cool with it. I have a similar experience to what she talked about, because we walk around this lake every morning, and the lake is different every morning. The sun shining on it, the water rippling or not rippling, golden or gray, the sky, the birds, the ducks, the geese, the squirrels, the trees, everything. It's like, and the people. I have that kind of experience that she was talking about, where I'm friends with everybody. It's all what she says. The whole world wants to play with you. Yeah. There's this one guy. He's a really sweet black man, big bear of a guy, and he's got this teeny tiny little dog that's always at the end of the leash going. Rah, rah, rah. We're laughing, and this dog is and the guy, the owner as well. I don't know what the dog's name is. I call him Killer. And the and it's like every morning it's Killer, and Killer never lets go of this high energy that the dog has, but the guy is a beautiful, big, beautiful teddy bear. So it's and I saw this woman. I complained to the council person that people are having their dog shit all over the park, and I asked her to put up one of those little things where there's bags, and so people can pick up their dog crap. And she gets this message back that they won't pay for it because it's too expensive, and they just spent thousands of dollars resurfacing the roads, but they would put up signs. So now there's signs all over that say, pick up your dog crap. And of course, there's still plenty of dog crap. Nobody's looking at the signs. But I saw this woman with a pretty good sized dog, and we're walking towards her, and I said, how much you want to bet she's not going to pick that up? And of course she didn't. And as we're walking by the steaming pile of crap, okay. So the next day, as we saw her, I went up to her and I smiled at her and I gave her a dog bag and I said, I'm going to give you this. And she said, thank you. So maybe she'll use it. Maybe it has to be a one-on-one thing. Yep.
I got a lot of stories, but I'll hold them. Hey, Izzy.
Yeah, I just, I want to thank you all for this meeting. Generally in the course of a regular day, I'll get constricted and fearful, but I pull out fairly easily. But I've been constricted and fearful for, maybe 5 or 6 days now. And of course, resistance is right there, but I haven't been able to get rid of the resistance. So I'm resisting the resistance. And what I'm getting from this meeting, it's all okay. Being upset for 5 days is okay. Thank you all.
Some of my favorite words right now. You ready for them? You ready, William? I want you to listen really carefully. You ready? Something's happening. This is it.
Could I just add another thought? I find myself saying over and over, one, not two. One, not two. And I'm being and I'm becoming. I'll take both for now.
There is something else that's coming up relative to what I'm listening to, and I'm marinating it in case anybody wants to come and hang out with me on Sunday. I am giving a homily at Awakening Together, and the title of the homily is Beyond the Known, which I love because, well, I love it fills me with this sense of stepping on to the Star Trek Enterprise, those words, as opposed to the not knowing. Do you see the
Yeah.
difference? So I'm recognizing that one, and this is a response to, I knew there was something I wanted to say, and it was a response to what Alka put in the chat. My understanding now of happiness is not what the human being tends to call happiness. My understanding of happiness, the way these teachings define it, is being in the space of not needing anything to be different. Just that. Just being in that open, expansive, nothing needs to change in this moment. That's the definition of this eternal happiness, because the holy instant is for all of eternity, and in the holy instant everything just is. So that's the spaciousness of this happiness. And then held within that, in this beyond the known, the understanding is in the moment the human experience began. It began as an experience or an experiment. All these words from here on out are just made up, but the human experience, by definition, requires separation. Two people interacting and learning how to be one again. And held within the experience of separation has to be fear. And held within the experience of fear is on some level a desire for something in the moment to be different. So from the standpoint of the human, there's always some level of fear, which will color the experience of happiness. Beyond the known, though, is this space of truth. And if I choose to rest and ask for the assistance of the beyond the known to change the coloring of what I believe to be true, then the experience is a rise of consciousness. And the prayer that Richard gave us a couple of weeks ago, which is the focus of this homily, is the experience of spending 2 weeks in this prayer that just continually states, please heal me of these fear-based thoughts. Please has almost a continuous thing here now, says, please heal me of the fear-based thoughts that are feeding the illusion of separation, is the way it's been playing in my head. Is the same thing as starting to poke holes in that sense that what I am is not you.
Yeah.
And wow, it's 2 minutes after the hour. William.
I just want to say, I get the feeling when I listen to the music of your words.
Busy.
Yeah, a question. Please heal. I thought the word we were supposed to drop, please heal me of these fear-based thoughts, was me. Did I get that wrong? Please heal these fear-based thoughts.
Well, the actual prayer in the book is, please heal my fear-based thoughts. But
Oh,
somehow I don't always use the word my.
uh-huh. Yeah, I thought the point of that prayer was to drop the my or me and just please heal these because that refers to the personal self.
In the book, it's
Uh-huh.
please heal my fear-based thoughts.
Oh, okay. I got it wrong then. Okay.
Well, it's coming from the standpoint of, hey, look at me. I'm a character in the dream who's currently frightened, and I'm reaching to the Holy Spirit that knows the truth. So that the one speaking that prayer from that standpoint feels separate.
Right.
And she's reaching for the true
Okay.
self that doesn't know separation. But
Okay.
you know,
Got it. Thank you.
we began with this whole conversation of being careful about what words we use, though. So it's the feeling more than the specific word.
Mm,
I don't think, my sense is it doesn't matter what words we use. The sense is it's the intention behind the prayer.
mm, mhm.
That's what Helen was saying. You don't like that word self, in that, then use love. Use whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
she
right. Let
said the
me.
great thing. She said the great thing about words is there's lots of them.
Oh, that's what she said. All right. I love us. We meet again at an open door on Monday for where the rubber meets the road. Now I stopped the recording. Here we go.